This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 839. Take note on this. Enjoy. Let's move on to pick of the week, and apparently Tanis, Sirion, and I last week struck a nerve with the Steam Deck.
Well, you missed it, man. I feel like you didn't give it its proper due. You're looking at this from the eyes of someone that can see, and let me show you from the eyes of someone that doesn't see quite as good. The Steam Deck, man.
You're all over this.
It's gonna be. Yes, I am all over this. Look, I really liked the Switch when it came out, right? It was a fun, nice little handheld. I like how you can just pop it in the dock, plug in the HDMI. It was really nice. And remember that when the Switch came out, one of the criticisms of it was people said, "Oh man, 720. Come on, man. Like everything's 1080. Like at least, come on." But it didn't matter because when it was such a good little console that even now they still haven't improved the resolution or anything. I mean, we've got some new OLED screens, but nothing in the way of that. Whereas when I read this article for the Steam Deck, I'm like, holy cow. The last thing I saw was the resolution. I couldn't believe that it had a 4-core dual thread processor in it. I was like, seriously? I mean, it's comparable to what I have in my desktop. And then 16 gigs of RAM. I'm like, this thing is, it's pretty powerful. And for me, being the 1240 resolution,
1280 by 800.
Yeah, 1280 by 800. I don't see a lot of the small details like that. So
and
this is
just to be clear to anybody
perfect.
listening, Tanis is legally blind, so you play games differently than the rest of us.
I do, but take RS Mobile for example. I play that a lot on an iPad, because it does have some advantages, to having it contained like that. Plus, one of the things I can do is I can plug straight in HDMI with glasses I wear.
Right, and this does have HDMI out.
Yeah. This thing, it's got a lot. And here's the other thing, like
with the dock, mind you.
Right. But you can you don't even have to use, I think
it runs Windows. It can run Windows.
I was going to say, you don't have to use what comes with it. You can install Windows. Guess what happens with Windows? Now you get to play Game Pass. So you can you could have access to two of your biggest game libraries that you have. That's the other thing that was the selling point for me was, you mean I now have access to the hundreds of games that I have bought from one sale or another. My Steam library by far is the biggest game library I have. It doesn't take up any room. I don't have to have a shelf with 50,000, games and stuff. Like, very nice. And I can access it anywhere with the Steam Deck. So, I hope it turns out to be as good as what the ad is
it's going to be interesting to see how the touchpad works for games that don't have controller support. And yes, I am looking at you, RuneScape.
Yeah. And I thought, and I wonder in those cases whether, if there's a mobile version, if you're just better off to download the mobile app, because if you're running Windows, probably could do that, right?
RuneScape Mobile is only on Android and iOS.
Oh, Android and iOS. Oh,
Yeah.
well, it's Android to begin with, I
No, it's
think.
Linux.
Or Linux. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Linux. Okay. But yeah, lots of reasons why I'm very optimistic about this. Um, had it came a couple years earlier, this would have been a
Oh,
major
yeah.
competitor to the Switch. But even now, I think it is a a very thoughtful alternative. This is a handheld for PC gamers, and there's just really I can't think of other ways that you've been able to ever interact with your Steam library
Which one
like
are you
this.
going to get? You going to get the base 64 gig where you need to use an SD
Oh
card?
yeah,
You going to get
yeah.
the 256 gig or the 512?
That's the only thing I don't like about this. I don't like the way that they're tiering it
Right,
like
and
they
you
do with
can't add an
phones.
SSD after the fact.
Yeah,
You can only use the SD card.
yeah. But the SD card, I don't really have a problem. Though they're small, they're cheap. Um, yeah, I think that's the route I would go. Um, there's I think that's the route that I'm gonna go. Just because 350 is a lot more reasonable than the higher, the what was it, the 500 and some price.
Yeah, and
I
we
ain't
struck
quite ready to commit to that.
um, great deal of controversy in this week with that, and we were doing the production for the show, and I said pick of the week, and you said you didn't, but you were really over the Steam Deck. I said okay, so you did that, and you weren't on the show last week, and for the longest time, people might not be aware, Tanis wrote gaming articles for Informer, and you covered a lot of things there. You've done lots of retro gaming. You've done sales of that kind of gaming hardware. So this is something that is your wheelhouse, and you didn't have a chance to talk about it last week. So I thought we'd just come back to it because it's good to have both sides of the story on this. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I can remember, gosh, I remember going back before the Switch came out, and writing about it and being very hopeful and completely surprised, at how well that it really did turn out. Now, of course, Nintendo
You
has,
were locked to Nintendo on that.
their ecosystem has a lot of IP, with it, but,
Yeah.
I, I think it's the access to the library that is one of the big selling points to me, for this device. It's not going to be as appealing to people that aren't PC gamers, right?
Right.
But for us, we are finally getting access to games that we probably would love to have played on the couch, 10 years ago. That's the other thing you got to think when it comes to, like, yes, Microsoft is doing a pretty good job of backwards compatibility now, but the ultimate backwards compatibility is PC, right? We can play stuff from the 90s all the way to 2021, right? And I have games like that in my Steam library from that whole period. Now you're going to be able to play that on a handheld.
Yeah, and one thing the people in the comments brought up was emulators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll probably be a crazy emulating machine. I'm trying to think if it would be if retro. I think RetroArch would definitely. You could probably definitely put that on there. I know there's a Windows version.
Well, there you go. You could do that.
Yeah, and
or even if there's a
has,
Linux version, you could do that too. So
yeah, and that has like every emulator you could ever need on it built in.
Alrighty. Steam Deck version 2, or rather, discussion 2 on it. Thank you, Tanis.
Thanks, Shane.
You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.